Ready? Good evening, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of our wonderful adventure. Before we start, I do want to thank the council for making some tough decisions, and I want to thank our wonderful staff who has bent over backwards, is that a good way to put it, to accommodate everybody's needs. So I thank you guys. We appreciate you, and just thanks to everybody. This has been actually not a bad experience this year, so thank you. Marnie, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Steve Friedman.
Here.
Councilmember Deb Gillis.
Here.
Councilmember Anna Richards.
Here.
Vice Mayor Don Horton.
I'm here.
And Mayor Sharon Mahoney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. Mr. Dalton, will you leave us in the pledge, please? Thank you very much. Okay, Marnie, public comment.
Okay, we have Mr. Dalton.
Good afternoon. I'm Larry Dalton, Upper Matacumbe. I really want to sit here and commend the city manager, the council members, and the entire staff on their dedication to decreasing the tax burden for the citizens of Islamorada. You guys have done a phenomenal job. This has not been easy, and I've been incredibly impressed by the work and dedication that you've put in, particularly with the department heads in creating your budgets. The department heads, you guys have 2 diametrically opposed roles. One, you want to get the most you can for your staff and your department. But the other side is you have to be beholden to the taxpayers and be a good steward. And many times they clash, and it's really hard to do. And I think you guys have done a great job in looking at these budgets that you've brought in for each department and coming in and looking at where you can cut. And I truly think that's admirable, and we thank you for that. But look, more work always, it needs to be done. And I was so happy to hear today that we've been able to create a budget, keeping the millage rate at 2.65. I'm not sure that the taxpayers are going to see that as the win that I and we think it is, because their tax rates are still going to go up, okay, because the value of their property went up. And so they're still going to be paying more in taxes, but bringing it to 2.65 is phenomenal, okay? I'm excited about it. You guys should be proud of it. And we need to sell it as that. But again, where can we make more cuts and looking at things moving forward? And as Don stated on day 1, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you eat it one piece at a time, one small piece at a time. I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach and look at what are our biggest costs, what are our biggest expenses, and how can we save the most money by cutting things down a little bit more. We have $17 million in tax revenue that comes in, and our employee cost is $14.677 million. Well, that went up $795,000 year over year, which is a lot of money. However, if you really dig into that, $675,000 of that was just the increase in health insurance costs. Okay? $675,000 of health insurance costs over an increase of $795,000 total. That's unsustainable, folks. it's too much. Initially, there was some discussion about health insurance costs going up 10% per year. When I look, can you guys go to tab 4 of the first day? Do you have any desire to do that? Yeah.
Before we go forward, is everybody okay, since this man has put in so much time, to let him continue past his 3 minutes? Counsel, are you okay with that? Don, Deb?
I have no dinner plan.
You have no dinner plans?
I'm not going to be that long,
Go
guys.
ahead. No, I just want to make sure, because
yeah.
I just want to make sure.
I'm not going to be
Following the
that long.
rules.
Okay. And I'm just going to I'm going to a random page here. I'm going tab 4, page 3. And I'm looking at Tuesday, tab 4, -3. That's what I'm looking at. That's more what I'm looking at. Okay. And we can look at any of those pages.
We just got there.
It's a spreadsheet that the left-hand column says general government department, Parks and Recreation, number 001-1300.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
everybody
yes,
good?
Yes.
And and I'm just looking at this, I'm picking this randomly. If we go to lifeguard 2, okay, that's a $45,000 employee. If you run that all the way across to what that employee costs, is $88,000. Okay? Now,
Lifeguard 2,
lifeguard 2.
next to the bottom line? No, that's part-time.
And they're not
Sorry.
part-time. You can look at part-time too. Look, you can pick any of these and go across. I've just picked lifeguard 2. We can go to the next page. Okay, I don't want to make it too hard. I'm looking at tab 4-4 now. And for the sake of discussion, let's look at the fourth one down, roadway maintenance staff at $43,000. Costs us a total of $93,000. The benefits are more than the salary. Guys, this is unsustainable. You can't keep doing this. So we may not be able to necessarily make cuts today in looking at this, but the costs to the citizen of each employee being 190 to 200+% of their salary, and these employees that make $45,000 don't feel that they're making $90,000. They don't necessarily see that, but that's their cost to us. So we've got to find a way and this is all benefits, okay? We've got to find a way to get the benefits under control. Just go through any of these, this spreadsheet within tab 4. It shocked me today when I went through it. So that was, if we take a look at the biggest expense of employee cost. When we look at, we slice it slightly differently. We look at the fire department, and Terry, we had discussions. I think you've done a great job in looking at cutting costs. We talked about that $500,000 savings. I just want to, if there's a way to decrease the overtime, which increases all the other costs, I'd like to find a way to do that. I know that there are obligations from collective bargaining. I don't know where those sit. I haven't seen any of those agreements, but there's got to be some limits. And I think you've cut it down, Terry, and I think that's great, but I think cutting that down. Our Sheriff costs $3 million for 16 employees, 16 sheriffs. Marathon has more employees, and they have more crime, and they cost $1 million less. We shouldn't be paying more than our neighbor is for equal or, I would say, lesser service. Now, look, they do a great job. We all love our sheriff. I do. I have great respect for our sheriff. But something doesn't add up to me. Why we're paying more with less crime and maybe less staff than what they're paying right next door to us. The last issue that I want to bring up is, and I had to leave early yesterday, and I apologize. There was some discussion about selling some of the properties, particularly the church that we recently bought. And I think we should look at selling properties that the public is not using. But I think those funds should go into the reserve fund for hurricanes or whatever we're going to use, the emergency type funds, and not necessarily be used to fill holes in current or future budgets. Oh, thank you all very much. And again, great job. This was, again, much easier than I thought it was going to be. Thank you.
Mr. Dalton. And again, you have been here like as much as everybody has, and you've put in so much work, and you are greatly appreciated in this community for your time and effort. So thank you very much. Ron, do you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this week we've been here for 2 days talking about a budget based on 3 mills. Going back to the July 22nd meeting, when I first came out and said we were going to start at 3 mills, that's the beginning point, Councilman Friedman said it was too high, and I think we all agreed it was too high. 3 mills was too high. We had to start somewhere, but our directive was to start at 3 and get it to where we can go. So today before you, we have a revised budget based on the last 2 days of input from council members, and thank you for input from our staff that did a good job of finding places to save money. We have now reduced the budget. The revised budget for right now is at 2.65 mills, which is the current millage rate that the village is collecting today. It's a reduction from the 3 mill budget we discussed yesterday. It's a balanced budget that meets all of our legal and audit requirements. So you could pass it today. You're not going to, but I'm saying it's in a position to pass. Having said that, there's still things we're working on. For example, some of the issues with the employees, there's no pay raise in the 2.65 budget. There's no COLA increases. We're looking at some reorganization things we can do without raising taxes, but to be able to provide some funding. So I'm just saying we're not finished yet. We're there. At the same meeting, Vice Mayor Horton mentioned trying to go to rollback. That was also a goal. We tried to get to rollback. However, once we got into the budget, we realized with the expenses, for example, in the public sector that are mandatory, we have no discretion. In order to go to rollback, which would be wonderful, we'd be in a deep hole. And we'd have to start cutting services, firing people. And in my opinion, that was not a feasible thing to go to. Once again, the final decision is the council's. If you came back and said, hey, let's go to rollback, we can keep going and digging. My point being that we're not finalized this yet. So if any member of the council or public wants to come in and meet with me and our staff and say, I've got some more ideas on where we can cut, where we can raise revenues, we're all ears. We'll sit down with you, take the time. Dr. Dalton's already been in several times, and we're still working with him. The point being, this is a budget that could be passed as is. We're still open to making changes. Having said that, there are a couple of things that I am concerned about this budget. One is that the reserves are acceptable from a legal standpoint, but not acceptable to me from a risk standpoint. And that is why last night I asked for direction about the church property. I will bring before the council in September at a regular village council meeting. I've talked with our village council here, and that'll be a motion or whatever acceptable form to ask for official permission to put that property on the market and see if we can at least recoup the money. And answer to the questions that have been raised, my opinion would be to go ahead and restore that money into reserves, not to spend it on, if we get the money from a sale, we're not turn around and just go spend it, we would hold it in the reserves. So that would be the plan. The question whether we do a zoning or not, I think is going to come up with the mayor. We've had some discussions, and I'm certainly open to whatever we want to do, assuming you do approve moving ahead with the sale at a publicly noticed regular council meeting. We would immediately put it up for sale, but then any contract offer that we get would have to come before you. So depending on what you want to have there or not have there, totally in the discretion of the council to say, we accept that contract or not. I just want to make sure we get some offers out there. As I mentioned, I've talked to some realtors. They have differing opinions about what the highest and best use is. That's a decision that we can make going forward. Having said that, it may take a while to sell the property. Meanwhile, we're in the middle of hurricane season. And so as basically a backup plan, I have talked to our bank, Centennial Bank, and I have a proposal, which I'll also bring to the council in September, for a line of credit, where you only pay interest if you draw down. If we don't use it, we don't pay anything. But I think it's a good thing to have, just ensure it, because we don't know what's going on with FEMA, for example, and how long it get reimbursed. This way, we know that the great job that Chief Abel and his staff did last hurricane and Irma in cleaning up quicker than anywhere else in the Keys, we want to lead the way again, because it helps get our businesses back on their feet, it helps get people back in their homes. So the line of credit will also be something I can bring before you in September. It's a minimal cost up front, and the only cost going down the road would be if we draw down on the line of credit. Before I go any further, I think I'll have our finance director, Hattie, talk about how we came up with these cuts to get us from 3.0 to 2.65. But to summarize, this budget is at the current 2.65 rate that we approved last year. So if your property did not go up in value at all, you pay zero increase in taxes. We know that property values did go up. And so if it went up, for example, $10,000, you would pay an additional $26.50 more than last year. Now, obviously, depending on what your actual increase was. My point being, if we start to try to cut more than that, I think then you start getting into service, and you're going, is it really worth the extra $27 that you're saving if you want to make more cuts? The 1 mil is a tough thing to get under the 2.65. So with that, I want to compliment Hattie. She got kind of thrown into the fire when our former finance director resigned kind of suddenly. We don't have a large finance staff. It was basically 2 or 3 of us working together to do this budget, along with the directors of the departments who did come in good faith, gave us some good reductions. We listened to you yesterday and the night before of some specific things. For example, we made the cuts you recommended in Public Works. I reduced the land acquisition fund by about $975,000 because I wanted to leave nothing to do appraisal. We want to proceed with some of these properties, but there was no reason to leave $1 million sitting in a fund. So my plan would be to hopefully, if you sell the church, in addition to putting that hurricane reserves, you might restore some money to the land acquisition fund. That's a decision we can make when the church sells. My point being, we're not going to, if we sell the church, there's no plan whatsoever to go in and spend more money on something else. It would just be to basically replace the money that was removed to buy the church in the first place. So with that, let me go ahead and turn it over to Hattie and let her go through some of the details of what we did find some cuts to, and then we'll come back to the council.
May I ask a basic question first?
Yes.
Yes, you can. Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Hattie.
You guys will have your new capital projects tab. At your direction, we removed $1 million from the capital outlay Public Works. We also reduced Public Works by some of their equipment. As you'll notice, they only have, give me a moment, $26,000 remaining as part of their capital outlay on page 13, or tab 13-2. And in that same section, Parks and Recreation offered to reduce theirs by removing the Wall of Fame, the mower, and the access control. The majority of the difference that you'll see for the general fund comes from reducing that land acquisition fund down to $25,000 because most of the other equipment falls under the discretionary sales surtax. So that's the land acquisition is really what made the difference in the general fund. But the total amount that we reduced it by was $2,327,500 is what we cut.
Really good. Really good.
And that's all I have. You guys have that updated capital tab. You have your updated 2.65 mil tab. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Deb, go ahead and ask your question.
I thought a balanced budget meant that when you got to the page 2 of, it's tab 6-2, that it says revenues over, under, expenditures, meant that would be 0. That shows a $2 million loss. In other words, we have $2 million more in expenses than we have in income yet.
That's correct, because in order to get to a non-deficit in spending, we drew down from fund balances. That's why we wanted to put the church up for sale and also have the line of credit in case we needed it, because the balances are less than last year's, because in order to get the millage rate down from 3 to 2.65, in addition to the cuts, we were still short. And so we drew down, in addition to the cuts that Hattie just mentioned, we also drew down the fund balance.
I wasn't referring to the fund balance. It says expenditures of $26,397,000, income of $24,271,000. And I know it's-
You are correct, but that would be drawing, the 2.1 million would be drawing fund balance down. It would reduce our fund balance by that amount at 2.65.
So you're saying that instead of our unassigned fund balance being 3.9, it would be 1 point something?
No, the totals at the bottom are including that reduction of 2.1. The totals on the bottom would be accurate totals after everything's said and done.
Okay.
Mayor?
Go ahead.
So you just don't show that 2.1 here on our fund balance as in a paren somewhere, right?
The fund balances down below are removing all the expenses. It's
Okay.
including all the revenues that come in less the expenses. That would reduce our fund balance to the 11.9 million.
Okay.
May I add another question?
Of course. Your mic.
So the old budget at 3 mills said that our expenditures were $27,653,000. And this is 26,300, so it's about $1 million less.
Yes,
That's all I
because
see.
because that's why I was explaining that the land acquisition fund was the only portion of the capital removing from capital that affects the general fund, because those funds are all all discretionary sales surtax. So those are earmarked just for capital projects. That money comes from the state. It can only be used for those purposes. It does not get included in the general fund totals. Land acquisition fund was the only one that was pulling directly from the general fund because it wasn't being
And if we're pulling from the money out of discretionary sales tax, which we get from the state, I hate government.
Government accounting.
Government accounting.
Very difficult.
I hate it. So when I was talking to you guys, and I'm not trying to be difficult about this, but when I was talking to you guys yesterday, or the day before, whenever that was, you used the figures off of the 3 mills and said, oh no, we're already under by $1 million. And we need to find more than $1 million. And if we wanted to get to the 2.6, we need to find what's on this third page down, which is 3 million something. This one's at 2 million something. So we didn't show that. We drew it from someplace else. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, for one thing, government accounting is difficult because there's restrictions on funds of where you can take them out. So when we go and start looking at cuts, it's harder than it looked because I'd say, well, let's just cut this. Well, it doesn't help the general fund because that's just going to go back to this trust fund or whatever. So it was very difficult to find areas to cut that had general funding that we restored. So that's why we had to draw down the overall fund balance. We could have left it at 3 mills, but that means we'd have been collecting more taxes from the taxpayer just to leave it in an account. And I thought from a standpoint of the council, it's better to go ahead and get the millage rate down, say pay less, and not have to be sitting on a big multi-million-dollar fund, but in the event of an emergency, still have a line of credit that we could draw down on if needed. But rather than collecting the full 3 mills, because we had direction from the council, reduce it from 3 to whatever you can, 2.65 is what we ended up at. But to do any further would be more damaging. I think 265 was the balance of, it's not 3 mills, which, we could have done. It's not the rollback, which I'm not sure we could have done. It was somewhere in the middle, and it's an imprecise number. It made sense to say to the taxpayer, our millage rate has not changed.
I'm not comfortable with the fund balance, even with the line of credit.
And maybe for a question, because I'll ask that of any council member, we are where we are, 2.65. If you don't like this, then we're certainly open to any specific suggestions of how we get to where you want to get to. We're open. If there's someplace else you'd like to cut, we'd like to see that, but we think this is the balance of where we need to cut. If you want to cut more, we're open.
It's not, I'm sorry, I thought I had the mic. It's not that I think we need to cut any further, it's just I'm not sure we're showing the cuts where I thought it would be, and now we've got fund balance so low that it's a dangerous place to be in, and I appreciate the fact that you put a line of credit in place. That helps. But to take fund balance down to approximately $4 million, plus the hurricane reserve, so we're talking 11 million, almost 12. When we weren't, we were low to begin with, I'm just not comfortable with it, and I don't know where to tell you to cut to get it out of the appropriate accounts. It just doesn't sound right to me that we're cutting it out of the sales tax. We're playing the shell game, I guess. I don't know how to do this.
Deb, when we started off at 3 mills, our assigned hurricane response at 3 mills was $7,014,000.
Right.
When we're down to 265 and our hurricane response is at $7,081,000. So we haven't depleted the hurricane response.
No, but
At our 2.65. We have depleted, we have lowered our entire fund balance by
2 million.
Around 2 million, a little less than 2 million.
A little less than 2.
Right.
Yeah, I see that.
But you mentioned the hurricane
I
response, and the hurricane response is actually a little bit higher at the 265.
I added them together,
You added what together?
the unassigned and the hurricane balance.
Okay,
I recognize the hurricane balance,
okay.
but the unassigned, we've taken the total from 13 down to 11.9, so
Yes.
almost 12.
Yeah. $1,000,001, $1,000,002.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
13 was low.
right. What should that number be, in your opinion?
I don't remember, but I do remember it came in low last year. Higher, like 15 or something.
And then they bought a $4 million piece of property.
Hey, I didn't buy the
No,
$4
no,
million
I'm saying,
piece of property.
I know that. I'm saying that's what lowered that, right?
I know that's what lowered that.
So the only way to build it up would be to tax more, right?
Yes, and I don't want to tax more. That's what I'm saying, is I don't know how to do this. But to say that this is a well-balanced budget, I disagree. I don't know the answer. And I'm usually not one to throw stuff out there if I can't come up with an answer, but I don't know the answer.
You guys have anything to say? Anna?
I think they did a great job myself, and I'm comfortable with it at this point. I know they're still working on things, but again, sell the church and put that money back in these accounts, and we're gonna look even better, and it's gonna be back to those numbers that you were talking about.
Steve?
We gotta get the church sold.
Hattie, when we
Well, I
come to
understand
these
that.
numbers, do we take into account the interest that we're going to be making on the money that we have in our accounts?
Yes.
So those are already projected numbers
Yes.
as well? The same as we project what we're going to get for our taxes and what we're going to get everywhere else. We have to do that projection, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Steve, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Deb's assessment that government accounting is awful. But I feel somewhat reassured that our parliamentarian has said that the reserves are low but legal, and the line of credit will help us with a buffer should we need it. So I'm comfortable with it.
Ron, do you want to say something?
And once again, if the balances were where we wanted them to be, I wouldn't have been pushing to have the church put up for sale. But that did occur last year, it did deplete our reserves.
Yep.
And so if we do sell the church, once again, totally your decision. If we get a contract, you don't want to take it, that's up to you. But assuming we do at least recover most of what we put in, if not all of it, and maybe more, the market, the way it is, we could get more than 4 million. That'll take care, I think, of the major issue. Once again, though, to have high fund balance that only pays maybe 4% interest, but have to raise taxes to keep it high, from my standpoint, wasn't something I wanted to do, especially when the line of credit, we can get up to 20 million. That's what we've negotiated, is that it's a maximum. We're not going to maybe take any of it. But I want to make sure if a hurricane hit, like Irma, and we had massive damage out there, we didn't know when we were going to get reimbursed, that we wouldn't be sitting on the sidelines waiting to go get a loan or something to get this thing cleaned up. We can clean up with Terry out there the next day. And Centennial Bank is our banker. They know how much we have on deposit. We were one of their big customers, and that's why it wasn't that hard a negotiation. I said, what can you do? They came back at the 20. I was thinking maybe 5 or 6 million, but hey, the more the merrier, because we may not take any of it. And if we do, we're going to get a really good rate that we get to pay. But once again, it was a decision internally, because truthfully, some of the staff wanted to come down to 2.8. I'm the one that pushed to go to 2.65, because I said, I'm a fiscal conservative like I think all of you are, and why collect taxes to put in a fund when I can get a line of credit to protect us? That was my theory, and once again, I'm open to more suggestions. For example, I think we are going to go out for an RFP for services for landscaping and for lawn maintenance. If it's cheaper, we may do that, but that takes time. I had to make decisions on the budget today. If we can go look for other costs, we're looking at increasing park fees. That's going to take time. So go to Parks and Rec. We're looking at the marina. Are the rental rates right? I'm looking at public parking rates where we can institute, like Key West has, where you pay to park. There's some areas, and so I'm looking at some places to bring in more revenue, but these things take time. Whereas the budget, we have a deadline of end of September. And plus, I wanted to get out to the public today. We could have waited to do the 265 and sprung it like they usually do at the last second. I said, no, let's get it out today. We'll put it on our website tomorrow. I'm going to have another meeting of the budget task force. Let the 5 members, including Dr. Dalton, as you can tell, is really into this stuff. Let them take a look at it. If you find me more things to save or cut, go. If it's a good idea, it's a good idea. We just kind of ran out of places because we are so restricted on what you can and can't cut. Because cutting something that goes right back to a trust fund helped us in no way. We had to find places where we could move around. And it is government accounting, and it's very difficult to do. I've been through it before, and you are really restricted on how much flexibility you have. That's why it's so important to get that church sold and put it back in unrestricted hurricane fund, for example, because otherwise we have money we may have to give back if you don't spend it in certain trust fund areas. So it's not helping you to not spend a trust fund. If you don't spend it, you lose it. That makes no sense either.
That's right.
Anna, do you have something?
Good.
Deb, you have something else you want to say?
I don't like the budget.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think you would have liked it even less if we would have put the taxpayers of this city under the burden of $3,138,000 by not approving the bank loans that we currently have, and had made that. So at least we got through that part of the deal.
What bank loans are you talking about that we approved, the 300?
All
What bank loans are you talking about?
What we approved under these here.
The assessment.
The assessments, yes, ma'am. Thank God we only had one dissenting vote on that, because if there would have been a majority there, we would have put the taxpayers on the hook for $3,138,000 on top of that. Or defaulted on our loan.
So do you want to give us a cutoff time, like the last time somebody can give you a suggestion to cut somewhere else? Is there, to not put so much of a burden on you guys? If people, you want to try to whittle it down some more or change something, what deadline would you guys like that you're comfortable with?
Well, this is the last budget workshop.
Exactly.
We have 2 scheduled budget hearings, so as long as before the next budget hearing in September, we have a couple of weeks, so it's not like we have to
Okay.
do it tomorrow. But in order for us to research it and make sure that it's doable as soon as possible, I'll probably schedule the task force meeting, which obviously you all have attended them. It'll be a public meeting, I've noticed, and they've been doing a great job of really going into the details. I'd say maybe sometime after the next task force meeting, which I'll probably schedule after League of Cities, when some of us are out of town next weekend, so probably the week after next.
Okay.
So we have time, but once again, it's a lot harder than it looks to find places to cut, because as soon as you start cutting something, there's a reason why it's in the budget. And you know, we didn't want to look at things like closing the park certain days. And we want to maintain the current level of service, which is, I think, a good level of service, but also don't increase the tax burden. And so you have to find that balance.
Okay. Can we talk about the church for a second? If that's okay? After last night, I'd like for the council to think about the church, and I already talked to Jennifer and Ron about it. Last night it was said, well, we want the most amount of money we can get, so move it to highway commercial. I don't want to do that. I would rather see affordable housing. It's something we've all talked about. We all keep saying we want housing for workforce housing, and yet this is a perfect opportunity for that property to be workforce housing. And if we make it highway commercial, we're going to get another business in Alamorada. That it'll be a business. That's what highway commercial is. So I don't want to rezone it. I'd like to see, there's a couple people that have approached me actually about workforce housing there and maybe buying it and looking into workforce housing. So I talked to Ron about it today, and so I talked to Jennifer, but it has to be, you guys say as well, but I don't want to rezone it. I would like to see if we could turn it into workforce housing. So I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, Jennifer, what gives us the highest density for workforce housing in a zoning district in that property? Wouldn't it be highway commercial at 15 an
Would it
acre?
be? See, I don't know that. She didn't tell me that.
Yeah, so at 15 an acre, highway
Is
commercial
it?
allows
Okay.
you to have affordable housing.
I was afraid we were going to get another.
No.
Okay.
But remember, when we control who we sell it to.
understand.
And if somebody comes to us and says they want to build another grocery store, we can say, sorry, we're not interested in selling that to you. But if somebody comes to us and says, I would like to max it out at 15 an acre,
So should we rezone it then?
I believe we should, because you can't build affordable housing in public, semi-public.
Is that what it is? Okay, all right.
So
Well,
I think,
would like to see
I think we need to
workforce
rely
housing.
on Jennifer and the advice that she would give us. I mean,
Well, that's
maybe,
why she said to me, that's why last night I told you guys to think about it.
yeah. Jennifer, please, help us out on this.
So, a couple things I've been thinking about since we had our conversation last night. What I've been hearing is that you guys want to have control over what happens there, right? But if you sell it to somebody, and maybe you all have an idea of how you're going to control this, but if you sell it to somebody and they say, we're not going to put a drugstore, grocery store, whatever, but then they decide it's not going to work for them for whatever they want to do, who's to say they're not going to sell it to somebody else and do that? Unless...
We can, because we can put a deed restriction on that property
Okay.
prior to the sale.
Okay.
And our deed restriction can stop something like that.
Okay.
Previous council did that on the first piece of property as you come in to Islamorada. Well, the last seller put it in there because it was a convenience store that when they sold the property, they sold it with a deed restriction that wouldn't allow a convenience store to go there. So we can do that.
Right, but it's also going to probably limit your amount you can sell it. It's not going to give you the highest dollar value. Once you deed restrict a property, it lowers the dollar value of the property. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying it's a good idea or a bad idea, I'm just giving you all the facts. And then just as far as the affordable housing component goes, that property currently is zoned public service, semi-public, and there is another piece of property in the village that is also zoned that, where they're interested in doing affordable housing, and I've been in conversations with them about changing the zoning, doing a text amendment for that zoning district to allow affordable housing in that zoning district. So I am looking at allowing affordable housing in that zoning district. So if that's the goal of the village, is just to allow affordable housing, we could accomplish that by doing a text amendment for that zoning district specifically.
That's why you have your job. Good job. See, I like that. I don't want to see somebody come in there and put a CVS, because I know the CVS is chomping at the bit for that property.
Well, we can tell them no.
I know, but I just want to sort of, we all talk about
So
workforce.
what if
housing.
somebody came to you and said, look, I've looked at it as hard as I can, and I want to build affordable housing, and I want to max it out at 15 an acre, but I need to put in some form of a commercial entity along with it, so that I have the combination of. And if we don't zone it, or we just do a text amendment, then we've limited or narrowed that down to where you may not even get any affordable housing unit. Because remember, the cost of building right now, along with what you can charge in rent, is going to harm some person to come in there and build that. And look at what's on Facebook right now with the South Cliff Estates.
$3,000.
A 1-1 for $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because that's what it cost for them to build that, for them to get an ROI.
Yep.
If there was some commercial with that, they could charge a lot less because they could get triple net. So I would say we shouldn't close the door. We should be very cautious of how it's sold and what our community wants, but to narrow it down, the focus so far down, we may never be able to sell that.
Yeah, well, my fears are just what she said, that somebody may buy it and then change their mind and sell it to somebody else.
Well, we
That's
can
all.
deed restrict it though.
Well, then
We
it
have
drops
that
the
authority.
value.
We have the strings on there.
Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you, Jenna.
I just want to make sure the direction is still the same from last night to move forward with highway commercial.
Yes, if that's what
I don't know, you gotta build a consensus here.
I don't know if we should.
Well, that's what
somebody-
I'm looking for.
You have my wishes on that.
Highway commercial?
Yes.
Okay.
It's fine, if that's what everybody wants. I just don't want to see McDonald's there or something, that's all.
I'm okay with highway commercial as long as we all understand that we're gonna have very tight controls over what ends up going there if we sell it. And I have no problem deed restricting it that way.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
And once again, just to be clear, I still plan on bringing it to a regular village council meeting, publicly noticed, agended, just so nobody has any questions about this formality. This is a workshop. So any official action we've taken at the regular village council meeting, I've already spoken to John about what format we want to put it in, whether it's a motion or resolution. But I do intend to bring it before the full council at your next regular council meeting.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, since we purchased this property, has there been any sort of discussion about what that use might be with the public? Is this the first that we're discussing any of this, right?
Explain.
Well, we bought the property, but we haven't designated what we were going to do with the property. We haven't had any meetings on that. So this, I think the September meeting would be the very first time the public would have any opportunity to even discuss anything about the zoning change or other ideas that they may have.
There was a group of people who wanted it to be the library with a community center behind it. So I've met with some people who wanted to move the library from where the library is to the front of that building and then have a community center in the back. So that much.
That was at a public meeting or
No.
just, okay, that's all I'm saying. Like, I think the public needs to be able to come in,
Certainly
voice
they
their
do.
concern,
Certainly they
about it
do.
before
Sure.
we make any decisions or direct staff to really do, to dig into this.
We also did the charrettes.
Your phone, your phone.
Yeah.
Your phone.
We also had the public charrettes where people had a chance to talk and say ideas too.
So you're saying you want to stop everything, like direction?
We're not starting anything now anyway, because it's not noticed. We're just having a discussion,
Okay.
which is one of those things that we're allowed to do in the sunshine in a meeting, right?
Yes.
And that's all it is the discussion. There's no decisions that are really being made at this
Right,
point.
I'm just concerned
Because
about
we
the
can't.
procedures,
Okay.
how we go about this.
I have a suggestion would be, prior to the September meeting, I can schedule a public workshop, not just in the church. I'd like to also get input, for example, in Silver and Spice and Machado. So maybe have a public workshop, which we talked about a couple months ago. We just haven't got, we've been kind of busy. But now that we've got the budget 95% of the way done, maybe have a public workshop, invite all the public, televise it, have them come in and say, because I asked for, remember one of our first meetings, I said, here's the list of all the properties. If you have any ideas on what you want to do with them, please come see me. Well, I haven't heard anything. But let's have a publicly noticed meeting, a workshop. Say, you got any ideas, you come in, I'll sit there and listen for however long it takes, and you tell me what you think can go there. Because I would like to hear about, what should or shouldn't go in Machado. I thought, what about Public Works? No, we want to put housing there. Silver and Spice, I had some ideas. Let's go ahead and hear from the public and say, you have ideas. And then at the September meeting, once we've heard from the public, if they do come, then you'll have a better idea as opposed to just bring it up. And I'm just worried the September meeting is going to be very lengthy.
Yeah.
And I'd like to maybe have a public workshop, which I think is what you're saying, and then hear what the public says. That might be the way to resolve that issue.
Jennifer,
Sorry.
why are you sorry?
Because I don't want to disagree, and I'm all for public workshops. So we literally have 4 weeks before the September meeting, and to advertise and publish and do a public workshop with a holiday in that 4-week span time with Labor Day, I think would be a very difficult task. But I just wanted everybody to have the facts.
Plus,
so.
you already have the baseball workshop on the 18th, so.
I mean, I'll do whatever anybody wants, but I just want to be clear.
Thank you. So what's,
That's something I don't need direction to do. I can just schedule a workshop, just like we did the Citizens Budget Review Task Force, which I think went well. The baseball task force, we're getting ready to crank up. I don't mind a public workshop to let people come in and give us our ideas. I don't see, I can schedule that pretty quickly. We'll notice it. I think we still have time. I just think in advance of the September meeting, when we're actually asking for, the village council to give direction, you'll have already heard, if anything, from the public. I'm not saying there'll be a bunch of turnout, but at that point, you know that there's not a lot of input. At least you'll know.
okay, everybody good with that? Yeah? Okay. All right, so are we done, or what are we doing? Hattie, do you want to say anything?
I don't have anything additional for you.
And just to summarize, once again, this is not a final budget. We can make changes to it. If any of the council individually wants to meet with us and give me any ideas or where you want to cut, we're all ears in the public. We'll say it on TV. You got any ideas, you come in and make an appointment. We'll talk to you, have our whole staff meet with you. We want to get all the good ideas we can. We don't want to keep fund balances low or et cetera. We still want to work on the employee issue with Dr. Dalton and the benefits. We're still trying to figure out how we can do that. So there's still some moving parts, but I think we're about 95% of the way done with the budget. But there's still room for improvement, but you have to come let us know. You just can't say, I'm against something. Good, what are you against, and what specifically would you do to change it? And if we can do it, we will do it.
Go ahead.
Like Anna said, I'm happy with this budget. I started off and I went through my wish list, and like Larry said, it's like eating an elephant one bite at a time. There are a lot that we can do in the coming year, that we can do rate studies on, and we can get RFPs out, and we can start looking forward at how we're going to continue to better these budgets. But there's only so much you can cut off before you can't walk anymore. And I just think that we've reached that point because of some decisions that's been made in the past. And I just don't know how else we can get there. And I think that everybody's done a great job. And I commend the task force that was put together, coming up with some ideas and brainstorming on that. And the staff for doing what they did. And suffering through this and worrying about what was going to happen through this whole process. and you as a new manager and Hattie being thrown into the fire. I think we've all done a good job, and I know that Peter has a lot of stuff that he wants to do out there that is absolutely nothing but good for, the city and the village and the environment, and even having the new viewing platform that's probably not going to get built that really would have been great for the citizens. So I'm very happy with where we're at, and I'm thankful what we did. So thanks.
Steve, are you okay with everything? Do you want to see anything change, or?
No, I think like Ron said, if we have some other ideas, we can bring forth and see, but I'm happy that we got to 265. So thank you for all your work.
Anna? Okay. So I guess we're done? We're done. Get her done.